It's here, Samsung's big boy. So 14.6 inches. The Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra is a mammoth tablet, but is it too big? I'll let you know my first impressions here of using it for an afternoon now. So this is not a review. So spec-wise, you probably already know it all. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. It's their new chipset from Qualcomm. And we do have, with this model that I got, the base model. So it's the Wi-Fi only model, doesn't have 5G, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 128 gigabytes of storage. So this is the box. It is a large box, of course, for a mammoth of a tablet, 14.6 inches here for the Tab S Ultra. And it's got this nice wrap around it to protect it. I'll get onto the build quality and the design of that in just a minute. So we've got our S Pen right here. And a good full size, but sadly there's nowhere to put it. Still no missile silo style in the actual tablet, which I would have preferred, but I guess being so thin, they don't have room for that. This will be our cable, which is, I think it's Type-C to Type-C. Yes, it is. There we go. So typical Samsung cable right here. We have well, that's for the micro SD card slot because I don't have the 5G version, but it will be SIM tray tool for micro SD card access. And then, yeah, a little bit of paperwork in there. I won't bother going through that. It'll just be a warranty or whatever. So that's the unboxing part. All right, so this thing's an absolute monster. It is really just like the Tab S7 Plus, but a larger mammoth version of it. So the fingerprint reader, I've been having a lot of issues with this fingerprint reader, and sometimes it just works for me straight away. Other times, there you go, if you tap it, it works better, but if you tap and push or just tap and hold, it doesn't seem to unlock too well. So I do think a few firmware updates needed for that. So the bezels around the outside here are very slim, really good looking. Now you see that when I get into, for example, internet website there, it makes it stand out a little bit, the bezels. Now there's some banding happening. I'm having an absolute mission trying to capture the screen without seeing this weird analyzing effect happening, okay? That's not actually something in the background, that's the screen. All the banding. It's just what it is because it doesn't have DC dimming, unfortunately, and then reflections galore on such a big screen. So here with a darker image, it does look a little bit better, and I'm not capturing it as good as I'd like, and I do apologize for that. So you can see a little notch at the top. Let's have a look at it closely. There it is. So it's not pretty. It's there, and I wish that they just did not do this. I'd rather have just a single camera if they could have put that in there without having the ultra-wide one. So 12 megapixel, and then another 12 megapixel, one just being the main normal, and then the ultra-wide one. And the unfortunate thing is this ugly notch, but I'm sure I'll get used to it. The back of it, again, very similar to the Tab S7 Plus. We've got the antenna lines. You either love them or you hate them. I don't really mind them because if that means we've got better wireless performance, then I'm fine with it. It just looks kind of, well, like Tron, the lines. I don't know. Anyway, it picks up smudges like crazy. I've been using it for 5 hours. I haven't wiped it down or cleaned it. You can see it's a bit of a smudgy mess. So we have the cameras on the back there. We've got 13 megapixel, and then we have a 6 megapixel ultra wide, which is not amazing, and you probably won't really be using them, but hey, it's good to have at least that option. So the S Pen, that's going to go right here. That's where it will charge. Magnetically just clips onto the back there. Now it is incredibly thin, and you'll see here is 5.5 millimeters, but then it's about 7, 8 with the camera that sticks out a little bit. Now these are AKG tuned speakers like we had with the previous models, and I'll give you a sample later on what they sound like. They are really nice. They're good, and they're kind of like iPad 12.9 Pro level, and other tablets like the Lenovo P12 or other ones similar to that, okay? So that's where one of the microphones is. And yes, I do have the protective plastic still around the outside of the frame because I haven't got my keyboard case yet. I don't want to scratch it. On the right, the other 2 speakers, antenna lines, Type-C port with video out. SIM tray if you got the 5G version. And for all of us, that's our micro SD card slot right there. That's that mic, and then middle power button and volume up and down. The buttons feel good, don't rattle. Down the bottom, we've got a pogo port pin connector for our hardware keyboard and the little stays there to lock it in place. So magnets will keep it on. I don't unfortunately have that keyboard. Samsung do tell me they're tracking information while they order that it's going to be at least 2 weeks out before I get it, which is, it's a pain. And our display, so I'm still struggling to capture this correctly. I'm getting this weird effect coming through now. There's no screen protector on it. It's just the way it is sharpening it. So I've lowered my shutter rate to try and get rid of the banding here. Now touch response, as you'd expect, is really good. It's excellent. I haven't really had any issues with it at all. So we've got lots of settings in here, but the one for me, the key one, is where is DC dimming? There is no DC dimming in here. So you've got edge panels on the side, you've got all your eye shield, comfort mode, adaptive brightness, screen modes. Okay, you can go through and adjust the white balance there to your own preference, however you like that. You know, you want it a little bit warmer, you can tweak all of that, which is great. But it's just that, where's the DC dimming? It probably doesn't support it, which for such a large screen, I think, is a little bit of a shame. Now, the screen doesn't look super sharp because it is that 14.6 inches, and then we're looking at a resolution of 1848 by 2960 off the top of my head, which is, I think, you know, that's a good resolution. Don't get me wrong for 14.16 inches, but they should have gone for maybe 4K plus kind of resolution there. So just bring up here display test, and we'll take another look at it. And I'll just show you some of the real life images with this one, the test that we can bring up. So it is looking great. It's just that it's not the sharpest panel, and there's some of that banding. So these images, they look great. Though any content you look on this, media consumption, wow, it's great, especially when you're gaming or looking at website content. It's just really perfect for that, such a large immersive screen. So the performance of the UI has been really good. I'm a big fan of OneUI. I think it's probably one of the best now. And there is a couple of things I wanted to go over too with it, that we get a little bit of bloatware. Just jump in here to my gallery. Where is it? When you first get it, you're going to be looking at this, but it's not too bad. We've got a couple of things there. Now, that's my own that I installed 3D Mark, of course, but there's a few little bloatware applications, but compared to some manufacturers like Xiaomi, this is nothing. And with our UI, we are not seeing the horrible, janky, terrible scrolling that I've actually seen on some other Android 12 phones. The OnePlus 10 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 and the Xiaomi 12 Pro. In fact, 3 phones with Android 12 that had issues with scrolling with certain Google apps. Not happening here. So optimization is really good. Now, if you do go in here, you can, of course, set up and go to, you want to split screen it, you can split screen it. And having such a large screen, look at all that space you've got. You've basically got 2 tablets side by side to work with there with Chrome. Oh, that's just Antutu, which I'll get onto those benchmark scores on that in just a minute. So when you do the split screening, I notice a little drop in performance depending on what you're running. That's pretty typical and normal right there. And you've got all of that Android 12 goodness there in settings. And there hasn't actually been any firmware updates come through yet, which is surprising. I thought they might have had one, but I've done that check and there's nothing. I'm on the latest firmware. And with a screen like this, something like Netflix just looks absolutely stunning. So I can't really show you anything, or otherwise I'm going to get slammed with a copyright strike against my account. But just let me tell you that everything that's on this is great. So it's got a wideband level 1 cert. You get full HD resolution, Amazon Prime Video 2 as well, Disney Plus. And everything's quick, very, very quick here with this, the peak speed. So just to show you just a couple of seconds of The Witcher 3 there, that it looks great, okay? So it takes a few minutes, well, with my network connection, to then swap over into full HD, but you do see the difference. It looks sharp, it looks great. Benchmarks now show that this is a real performer, but not as fast as I've seen with some other models running the same chipset. So Snapdragon Gen 1 here is powerful, very, very powerful. And look at this. This is what I'm impressed with. It's only gone up 0.4 degrees Celsius. That is great. Compare that to the same chipset in this, the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It went up 9 degrees. Look at that, the heat, okay? So it looks to me like what Samsung's done is throttle it back a little bit, but they're just keeping those thermals in balance there, whereas Xiaomi, it's completely out of control. And of course, we've got a huge tablet here to dissipate that heat. So there's a big difference in the scores, quite a bit there. But I think it's well worth it to have these thermals, because the back of it's just getting slightly warm so far, whereas run the same test on this phone and it gets quite hot. So a big difference there. So Android Bench, our internal storage speeds, it's looking very good. So we do have, with this model here, 128 gigabytes of storage, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's UFS 3.1 storage. So look at this. Very good. I mean, really fast there, and I think that's great. There's no bottleneck there at all with those kind of speeds. Now, Geekbench 5 here, that's a good score, okay? Not the fastest I have seen compared to other models again, like the Xiaomi, you'll see, just bring that into the shot. All right, it is a little bit faster there, but again, I will take this over that with the heat issues that phone does have. And then lastly, I've just run this, which is our wildlife. So you can see it gets on average here, frame rate of 55.6 versus the Xiaomi, which does get 56.4. So only a little faster there with the GPU performance. Now, I probably will run a stress test later on. I'll run the Wildlife Extreme test, which goes for 20 minutes. In another video, I'll probably compare it to a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 phone, and we'll see the difference in the thermal performance between a large tablet and then a phone. Now for GPS, it does have, yes, GPS on board with this, even just the Wi-Fi only versions, which I've got here, and a hardware compass. So I'm indoors and it's still getting a lock here, and the signal strength isn't actually too bad considering I'm indoors. It's around 25 there. And if it's up over, well, it should be over 30 at least, but that's when you're outside. So the accuracy is going to top out at 3 anyway, but this is just live just to show you that this is going to be a fantastic tablet for navigation because of the compass and just how big and immersive that screen is. Very quick look now at the S Pen. So it does have palm rejection, of course, and you hold it just above the screen, you're going to get that hover that shows up. Now, I found it to be very fast here. That's always been the case, really, for me. The S Pens are great. It's very similar to other tablets that have Wacom tech, which is always really quick too, in my experience, like the Surfaces. So you can zoom in here with this, and I'll just do a very quick little test here. You can see that that is almost instant, and the stylus experience for me is really fast. There is almost, well, I don't see any lag with it at all. Although they claim that the latency now, what is it down to? I believe it's down to about 2.8 milliseconds, which is really, really quick. So very fast and no lag, and it does work right up into the corners of the screen, okay? No problems with that. And it doesn't go all over the place. You can draw perfectly straight lines if you're that skilled to be able to do that. I'm not. I'm just little doodles here. And our gaming here. So I was a little concerned about the size of this tablet affecting gaming. Just how comfortable is it? Now with some controls here, my thumb can't really get to things easily, like looking around. I have to kind of do this. And that to me is a little bit awkward. And I'm definitely getting that feeling after playing this game now for, it's only about 15 minutes I've been playing, that with Genshin Impact here, it's more comfortable on a smaller tablet. Like the Tab S7 Plus, this would be more comfortable. Now what I'm running is the absolute maximum settings here at the moment, and it's been fine. I've seen a couple of little frame dips and lags, but the good thing is it's not getting too hot. It's not crashing and burning like the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 did on me with the same chipset. They just overheated and the game closed on me, but this one's good. It's just the sheer size of this tablet when gaming is a little bit uncomfortable, I feel, and I'm not over-exaggerating here. It's just not doing it for me. I prefer to game a game like this kind of style, on a slightly smaller tablet. I think 12 inches is the ideal kind of size there. Now, what about our thermals? I can feel a little bit of heat now after 20 minutes of gaming. But really, for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, this is nothing. Absolutely nothing. So thermals so far, excellent. I don't need to break out my thermal imaging camera, but I possibly will later on when I do some real long, lengthy stress tests to see how hot it's going to get. But it is nothing like the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 in a phone. Phones are, of course, much smaller. They can't dissipate that heat as quick. They run into overheating issues, in my experience, but here, no. That's good. It's just slightly warm to the touch where the chipset is around this area. Finally, what about the 4 speakers? So side-firing AKG tuned ones. They are pretty good. They're really impressive. They're loud. They've got a bit of bass to them. Mid's great. And yeah, no one's going to be complaining about these speakers, I think. They are good. So I'll give you a sample of them now. I'll just jump into one of my recent videos here, and we'll hear what they sound like. And looking now at the cameras here on the Tab S8 Ultra. So this is the main front-facing camera. Now you would notice that when I walk around that it shakes all over the place. That's because It does not have any electronic image stabilization with these front-facing cameras for vlog footage, which is a bit unusual considering the spec of this one. So this is the main camera, then you get the ultra wide, which does fit so much more in the shot. Now when you're using these cameras, depending on what apps you're using, it can actually do this on the go, automatic. That's when you're in like Skype calls or something, it pictures and detects someone else there. So you can swap over now to on the go, where we do have electronic image stabilization. See, as I walk ahead now, that at least does have the electronic image stabilization. To me, it's not really a deal breaker because I personally would not be shooting vlog footage with a massive tablet like this. And the quality, well, it's definitely not as good as their phones from that main rear camera. As I pan around here and just walk ahead, it's cropped in quite a lot. Okay, so the speakers in this, fantastic, really loud and rich sounding, great speakers. A good tune there from AKG, considering it's just a tablet, it's really impressive. Probably better than most of the laptops that I review and even gaming laptops. It really is that good. So there's a couple of things about this tablet that I want to make really clear. Even though this is a first impressions with this, I have reviewed now in my lifetime a lot of tablets. And I do think what I suspected from the beginning, that 14.6 inches is simply too large for what this is intended to be, a tablet. I do find with games like Genshin Impact that when you're playing and you have to stretch your hands in to control it properly because it's just too large. It gets a little bit uncomfortable. Now watching Netflix on this for the first 20 minutes is great. I mean, they're going, oh, this is amazing. Watching my favorite episodes on it, but after about 20 minutes you're going, well, I want to put it down. I want my stand. Where's the stand? I want to stick it in the stand there so it can support its own weight. At 730 grams, it's not exactly a lightweight tablet. So that's why I think a lot of people should think very hard about this one. Don't fall for all the hype videos going, it's amazing, go buy it. I think my recommendation is don't buy it actually. Go for the Tab S8 Plus, and me personally, I should have gone for that. I think I made an error here. I really should have got the slightly smaller version, well, quite a bit smaller version, because it's just simply too big, and I believe it'll be too big for most people. Now, when I get the keyboard for it, I can see myself using this all the time in the keyboard, because the keyboard will be a stand for it as well. And that's what I believe most people will do with the S8 Ultra here, is simply just use it as a big Android laptop. Now I haven't covered Samsung DeX. I might in another video. That is their desktop mode, but it works on this really good. I have tested it out, but I just haven't recorded it. You've got video out with it. The performance of it is fantastic, and I'm pretty happy with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 so far in a tablet, as I suspected. I mean, it's logical. A bigger heat base there to dissipate that heat, away from the chipset. It's got all that back area there, huge amount of alloy. It can get rid of that heat quickly, so it's not really getting that warm. It's not throttling like it is in the phones. I've tested 3 phones from 2 different manufacturers now with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. If you haven't seen those videos, for me it's been very disappointing. It's been a throttling hot mess, that chipset in a phone, but in a tablet, absolutely fantastic. It's really not getting that hot at all. It's just getting warm. So I think Samsung's done a great job with the cooling on it so far in my testing. So I may possibly have more videos coming out on this where I get into a full review. I'll see how this first video goes interest-wise. And I may come back with some throttling tests with it. Just push it really, really hard to see how much will it throttle, how hot's it going to get, and possibly do a comparison to a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 phone. So stay tuned for that. I do hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.